Before I start, I was wondering why did Daud ask two of us, Irfan and me, to come here. And I was unclear whether it was an intentional act to call two suspended faculty members. But anyhow, it's good. It's good because if we are talking about the idea of university, it's also good to hear from people whose thoughts might be determined, influenced by certain kind of, autoethnography kind of. Sociology students, if they are here, their teachers must be teaching them what is autoethnography. But none of their teachers do work on what is happening in the universities right now with the faculty members or with the students. With that beginning, I want to reflect on neoliberalism a bit, but I will be talking more. My concern more is, and it comes not merely from the fact that I have been suspended and whatever has transpired before and after that, but it is also coming from a larger work of looking at university as an industrial complex and teachers as workers. Which unfortunately teachers don't realize that they are workers. It's not that suddenly we have arrived at a moment like this. And those of you, unless and until you are new entrants to this place, JNU, those who have been here for a few years would understand the, because they are recording, generally I use a lot of adjectives, but I won't. So you had regimes wherein you were not allowed to sit here. You were not allowed to put posters in jail. I still remember students would put, there was a point they had put posters, newspapers, and they had written on newspapers and pasted across stairs here, SSS II everywhere. And a lot of things that happened. Deans were unhappy. Obviously, Vice Chancellor was unhappy. And mind my word, Dean was unhappy. Chairpersons were unhappy. These are all faculty members. These are intellectuals who make the university. But today you can sit here. University always has, in its history has different phases wherein you might be allowed to come here, sit here, protest. But that does not mean that the university as an institution has radicalized. Those days when I used to study in this building to today, the university has changed a lot. But I don't say that it was an ideal place back then when I would study there. And that's important because historicity is essential to understand the current conjuncture where we have arrived. Because we did not arrive here all of a sudden. This moment did not fall from the sky. Suddenly a new dictator is born and suddenly the world goes bad. No, it is not. The social processes, political processes, economic processes have undergone change. And so have universities also undergone change. So I would try to reflect a bit on that and more so how I feel and when we have conversation, and when I use the term conversation, I'm using the Freirean idea of conversation who would distinguish between dialogue and conversation. So when we have conversation, we can talk about a lot of things which I would miss out on. My thoughts are also influenced, determined by the fact that I have seen even today, and because I'm here, I'm not a great fan of M.N. Srinivas, but at least one thing that you are all the time, you are in a ethnographic mode. So I would use instances from this place, this university. There was a time when here teachers came out. JNU doesn't have a very rich history of teachers coming out. Pardon me, the teachers here. But in the last 10, 15 years, that has changed. And that, to my mind, was the difference between a university such as Delhi University and JNU. Here it was the student who was the center point of mobilizations, etc. And I have seen over a period of time how from massive mobilizations of the teachers, and I'm talking of the last 10 years, it came down to a very minimal number of teachers participating in the GBMs. And I did attend one of those GBMs just out here in the open in front of School of, because as a student of social movement, I keep going to whatever happens in Delhi University, what happens to JNU, in JNU, etc., etc. Now, why does this happen? Why is it that teachers, students, non-teaching staff are suspended, rusticated, thrown out of universities, but there is no mass upheaval within the university? When we say that university is a place where vibrant ideas, where new experiments are done, why is it that it is not coming out of there? Why is it that the earlier instances of universities becoming centers of movement and then those ideas traveling, whether you had, if you look at the Mexican student movement, 1960s, in Europe, etc., etc., when that is happening, why is that not happening today? When there is so much of oppression, when people are fearful of speaking out, why is it not happening? And that is where the title, so we are waiting for the upheaval, and that upheaval we are not arriving at, largely because there is a neoliberal making of the individuals within the universities as well, the students, the teachers, everyone. Now, if you would look at, there will be many more, but if you would look at how the neoliberal response is, opposition to the neoliberal is, one is, I would call them romanticists, who think that, the neoliberalism is very dehumanized state of affairs, it should not be here, there is a lot of injustice, etc., etc. And you have a lot of people and a lot of intellectuals who talk about wonderful things. This should not happen. Students should not be repressed like this, etc., etc. But then they stop at a particular point. They do not go and ask the question, why are students being treated like this? So there is a sense of romanticism in their thoughts. So that is one. The other one is those who are influenced by a certain idea of welfareism. So if you would look at even before the NEP is new thing, but the movement in education has a long history. So even before this, whether it was the demand for 6% of GDP, whether it was for implementation of a common school system, whether it was implementing Radhakrishnan Commission on higher education, etc., etc., somewhere the idea was that what is happening is not good. Education, universities are a public good. We should go back to an age when state runs the affairs, wherein private players are not invited within these institutions. So that is the welfareism. They still want to remain within capitalism. They did not want to get out of it. So there my problem is that you arrive at neoliberalism from the welfarist stage. It's a natural progression of that arrival. The problem which needs to be investigated and talked about is what happens within capitalism which leads you from that welfarist phase to the neoliberal. Now, nobody in this group of scholars, activists are talking about that. There is this third group across universities. So this guy runs Naukri.com and who also runs Ashoka University. I mean, imagine, we always used to say that the Halwai is running lovely private university. But it's now the Naukri.com wala is running the Ashoka University. And he tweets that thank God, Bhagat Singh's and what is this other guy's name? Umar Khalid are not born here. Thank God students feel bored here because parents do not pay us money for the students to get excited. That was the implication. So Bhagat Singh was too exciting for him. Now that's the private university. Now the third group is this group, and this group which inhabits, and this is the group of intellectual which is inhabiting every form of higher education. They are the critical scholars. They are critical intellectuals teaching in different universities and doing what the neoliberal order wants them to do. So if my colleague in Jamia gets suspended, the faculty members do not come out in open. There is no upheaval that the faculty member in Jamia is suspended. When a faculty, so if there's two good articles, News Laundry and Print had done on Ashoka recently. Students are saying that what you people get from outside the Twitter world, that's not the actual reality of our university. These teachers come to our classrooms and they say, देखो बहुत ना ये सब मत करो, पढ़ने के लिए आए हो, पढ़ाई कर लो, जो हो गया हो गया. Now, if that is, and we know for fact that that is how it happens. That is how it happens in my university. That is how it happens in other places as well. So I can believe that is happening in Ashoka University as well. And these are critical scholars who do this. Critical historians, critical IR scholars, critical sociologists, critical political scientists, critical. Oh, there's such a fantastic prefix, being critical. Now, so this third group of scholars also want to be critical, remaining within the circuit of capital. So they enjoy all the privileges, fun, and everything that capital gives to them and want to be critical. My God, I mean, it's like those Sundays when, I don't know if Nirula still gives you, that they say that make your own Sunday. So, you know, these critical scholars are making their own Sundays. Let's remain, you know, whatever the capital is giving us, and at the same time we are very critical, you know. Now, this is what neoliberalism survives on because of the drawbacks that these three brands of intellectuals and scholars are doing. Neoliberalism at the end of the day is a form of capitalism. And as Sadhfilo would have said, it's not a different mode of production, but it's a form of capital that we encounter today. See, they are protesting. So, you know, these scholars want to remain within this frame of capital. Now, it is this frame of capital which wants universities to become something that we encounter today. It says, don't say anything against the state. Don't enter into a conversation about what is happening in the university, what is happening outside of the university. It doesn't want you to say that universities are not isolated islands, but they are located within particular contexts. Because the moment you do that, just go back in history, all student movement, 1960s, 70s, they became massive movements only when the connection of the university with the outside world gets established. When the peasants, farmers, workers come and join the students, the protesting students. Now, this system doesn't want you to do that. If you do that, if you raise those questions, raise the question of justice in a way that takes them out of this place, out of the university, which proves that university is porous, then it becomes problematic. And why I said to begin with that we did not arrive at this point all of a sudden is because, I studied here, but I always felt that this was a place of privilege, this place. And I found it quite problematic that students, teachers here in this university would never even talk about what was happening in Kanpur University, 50 kilometers from here in Meerut University and Magad University and, you know, other universities across the country. The center, I remember one of my friends at that point of time would say, तुम JNU वाले सोचते हो JNU is the center of the universe. That's not the center of the universe. And we always used to feel that. Whenever during Bharat One, on the one hand, the AVVP on the other hand, we will be on the main gate of the JNU. It was not this big. It was a tiny gate at that point of time. the Munirkawalas did not know what are we doing. Now that's the tragedy of the university. And that tragedy gets reflected when this university comes under attack and the people of this country are not bothered what is happening to them. There should have been a mass of people that, our higher education is being destroyed. Children of Dalits, the poor, etc., are not going to get access to a good public higher education system. It's not an issue of the university, it's an issue of the masses. It's an issue of the society. Why is it not happening? Why does it not happen? It doesn't happen because of, one, to my mind, these different kinds of scholarship which has failed to take the idea, these brilliant ideas which were developed within the university about justice, equality, etc., access to education. You can keep counting it to the world outside. That could not happen. A bridge was not built between the masses out there and the people here. Universities always, till now, in this country have been a place of privilege. You are privileged if you are part of a university, more so privileged if you are part of JNU. One is habituated to that. Now, so why is it? And I think it's important for all of us as students to ask ourselves that this terminology of being critical, what does it then actually mean if that is not leading to a transformation? And transformation, then it's up to you to discuss whether you want to look at transformation as a reformist transformation or as a radical systemic transformation. If you are saying that there should be justice in the system, it's a radical systemic transformation that you are asking for. Now, so will it be only critical if we all of us start being very tokenist and say, yaar, ab gender tha, race bhi jod do, class bhi jod do, ye bhi jod do, ye bhi jod do, and we become critical? I think we need to move beyond that and really first to begin with, as students, start asking, how are we going to define being critical? This is not being done also on account of the fact, all these three things, that approaches that I'm saying, is because somewhere down the line, and we don't have time here, I will simply flag it, teachers have not considered themselves as workers. And these workers do not enter into an alliance with the other workers. When your university is being treated the same way as any other factory is being treated, whether it is working hour, the ways of behavior, everything, I can count, how many things you are supposed to do and the system is asking you to do. And, so, but this is very rhetorical, what I am saying. If you really want to get theoretically into it, then you will have to get into whether it's a productive labor or unproductive labor. I can prove you it's a productive labor. I can prove that it's a productive labor, it's not an unproductive labor. So I think that's an essential point which leads teachers to become it will be good if you all differ with me and debate with me, teachers become labor aristocrats. And by teacher I mean intellectuals also, in general. So, and that's the situation which leads to this kind of a situation where we are. If we really want to reframe our university or the idea of university, we really need to address these questions. We really need to talk about the relationships that the teachers, the non-teaching staff, the students, all of them. I was never aware of this. When I went to Turkey for a conference on education, it was decades back. For the first time I discovered they don't have a teachers union there. They don't have a students union there. At that point of time, what they had was educational workers union, in which teachers, students, non-teaching staff, everybody was there. Because it doesn't exist here, when the gardener gets fired, before all of you, my timeline is bad, because I can't determine your age. When we were students here, security guards sitting here used to wear those khaki clothes because they were university employees. Gradually, they were replaced by these contractual employees. So there was no appeal teachers, students, university should have been shut down, that you are firing gardeners, you are firing the cleaning staff, you are firing the... It doesn't happen. And it doesn't because we do not historically in this part of the world think that these people also are part of the same economic framework, circuit of capital that we as teachers and students are. I think there are a lot of issues, and unless and until we tackle these issues, the idea of the university, I don't think will get radically transformed. It might go in a completely different way where no assertions will happen. Thank you.